Noah revoked my clearance to force me out, thinking I was helpless. He didn't know my ID was the fail-safe for the network. I left smiling, knowing that by Monday, the federal government would be asking him why he triggered a level 5 security lockdown. Before this story continues, tell me, where are you watching from today and what's the temperature? Noah was about to learn that in the world of cryptography, you never delete the architect without reading the manual first. The server room was my sanctuary. It was kept at a constant 65 degrees, a temperature that required a sweater even in the middle of July, and filled with the rhythmic, white noise hum of 300 distinct cooling fans. To anyone else, it was just a loud, cold room filled with blinking lights. To me, Sophie Brown, it was a symphony of data. At 36, I was the lead cryptographic analyst for Vertex Solutions, a mid-sized defense contractor that handled sensitive logistics data for federal agencies. I wasn't just an employee here, I was the architect. I had built the legacy encryption protocols that kept our client, Director Robinson of the agency, very happy. My world was orderly, logical, and secure. Then came the disruption. His name was Noah Martin. Noah was our new VP of Operations. He was a visionary, which in corporate speak usually meant he had a lot of ideas that looked good on a slide deck, but were impossible to implement in reality. He was barely 30, dressed in suits that cost more than my first car, and he smelled like aggressive cologne and unearned confidence. It was 10:00 a.m. on a Tuesday when he barged into my office without knocking. I was deep in a code audit, my dual monitors filled with cascading lines of script. "Sophie, quick chat," he said, not asking. He leaned against my doorframe, tapping a gold pen against his teeth. "I've been looking at the efficiency reports for the IT department. Your team's output is sluggish." I swiveled my chair around, taking off my blue light glasses. "We don't produce widgets, Noah. We maintain cryptographic security for government contracts. Fast usually means sloppy, and sloppy means treason." Noah rolled his eyes, a gesture so dismissive it made my blood temperature rise a few degrees. "See, that's the legacy mindset I'm trying to disrupt. We need agility. I'm implementing a new cloud-based workflow. We're migrating the secure archives to a third-party vendor. It'll cut costs by 40%. I stood up. I'm not a tall woman, but I know how to project authority. "You can't do that. The contract with Director Robinson explicitly states that data must be hosted on-premise. If you move it to the cloud, you violate the Federal Compliance Act. We lose our clearance, we lose the contract, and we probably go to prison." Noah laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "Always the drama, Sophie. I've already authorized it. The migration starts next week. I need you to sign off on the encryption keys." "I won't sign off on a violation," I said, my voice steady despite the thumping in my chest. He stopped tapping the pen. His face hardened, the friendly, visionary mask slipping to reveal the ruthless climber underneath. "You serve at the pleasure of the company, Sophie. Adapt or get out of the way. I have a board meeting on Friday. I expect those keys." He turned and walked away, his Italian leather shoes clicking sharply on the linoleum. I sat back down, my hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the realization that the man steering our ship was aiming us directly at an iceberg, and he thought the ice was just a cloud. By Thursday, the tension in the office was thick enough to choke on. My team, 3 brilliant but quiet developers, were walking on eggshells. Kevin, my junior developer and arguably the most loyal person in the building, came to my desk with a look of pure panic. "Sophie," Kevin whispered, looking over his shoulder. "I just saw the logs. Noah's brought in outside contractors. They're trying to mirror the drives. They keep hitting the firewalls you set up." "Let them hit the walls," I said, typing furiously. "Those firewalls are there for a reason." "But he's bypassing the safety protocols," Kevin hissed. "He's using an admin override. He's going to corrupt the file integrity." I knew I had to act. I grabbed my tablet and marched toward the conference room where Noah was holding his weekly Synergy meeting. The room was glass-walled, a fishbowl of corporate pretension. Noah was at the head of the table, projecting a graph that showed a steep, upward red arrow. The board of directors wasn't there, but the senior management team was, all nodding like bobbleheads. I opened the door. "Noah, we need to stop the migration immediately." The room went silent. Noah didn't look surprised. He looked annoyed, like I was a fly buzzing around his lunch. "Sophie," he sighed, clasping his hands on the mahogany table. "We are in a meeting. We'll discuss technical difficulties later." "It's not a technical difficulty," I said, stepping fully into the room. "It's a security breach. You have contractors attempting to mirror classified drives without the proper clearance badges. Do you realize that the system logs every single access attempt? Director Robinson gets a weekly report. When he sees unauthorized IPs pinging his data, he's going to send a federal audit team, not a thank you card." Noah stood up slowly. He adjusted his silk tie. "You are obsessed with this Director Robinson character. Let me tell you something about business, Sophie. Clients care about results, speed, efficiency. I am modernizing this dinosaur of a company. You are acting like a gatekeeper." "I am the gatekeeper," I countered. "That is literally my job description." "Then maybe the job description is obsolete," Noah said coldly. The silence in the room was deafening. The other managers looked down at their notepads, terrified to make eye contact. "I don't need gatekeepers. I need bridge builders. If you can't facilitate the vision of this leadership team, then you are actively obstructing it." I looked around the room. I saw Linda from HR avoiding my gaze, scribbling intensely on a blank sheet of paper. I saw the VP of sales checking his watch. No one was going to help me. "I'm documenting this," I said, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. "I am formally noting my objection to this migration. When the audit happens, my name will not be on the negligence report." Noah smiled, a predatory grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, don't worry about the paperwork, Sophie. We're handling everything." I didn't know then what he meant by handling everything. I thought he meant he was going to forge my signature or override my veto. I didn't realize he was planning to remove the obstacle entirely. Friday afternoon arrived with a gray, weeping sky that matched my mood. I had spent the last 24 hours in a state of high anxiety, double-checking the encryption logs. The contractors had stopped pinging the server, which I thought was a victory. I assumed Noah had listened to reason. I was wrong. At 3:30 p.m., the email chime on my computer pinged. It was a meeting invite from Linda in HR. Subject: check-in, location, her office. My stomach dropped. Check-in on a Friday afternoon never meant anything good. I walked to Linda's office. It was a small, beige room that smelled of lavender air freshener and anxiety. Linda, a woman in her 50s who had always been kind but spineless, wouldn't look me in the eye. "Have a seat, Sophie," she said, gesturing to the chair. I sat. "What's this about Linda?" She took a deep breath and slid a thick envelope across the desk. "Effective immediately, Vertex Solutions is restructuring the operations department. Your position as lead cryptographic analyst has been eliminated." I stared at the envelope. Eliminated? I built the department. I'm the only one with the level 5 admin keys. "We're moving in a different direction," Linda recited, clearly reading from a script Noah had prepared. "We are offering you a severance package of 2 weeks' pay, contingent on you signing this NDA and agreeing not to disparage the company." 2 weeks, I laughed, a harsh sound. "I've been here for 7 years. I saved this company during the 19 data breach." "It's the standard package for redundant roles," Linda said, her voice trembling slightly. "We need your badge and your laptop. Now." I stood up. The anger was there, boiling hot, but beneath it was a strange, cold clarity. Noah wasn't just firing me, he was revoking my clearance. He thought that by taking my badge, he was cutting me off from the system. He thought he was locking me out. He didn't understand how the system was architected. Fine, I said. I reached into my bag, pulled out my laptop, and placed it on her desk. I unclipped my ID badge, the one with the heavy, golden Level 5 chip embedded in it, and laid it next to the computer. One thing, Linda, I said, looking her dead in the eye. Does Noah know about the dead man's switch? The what? Linda blinked, confused. Never mind, I said. He's the visionary. I'm sure he'll figure it out. I walked back to my desk to collect my personal effects. Kevin watched me, his face pale. Sophie, he whispered. I'm out, Kevin, I said quietly, putting a framed photo of my dog and a small cactus into a cardboard box. Don't say anything, just keep your head down. But the migration, Kevin stammered, if they try it without your key. I know, I said. I picked up the box. Kevin, listen to me closely. Do not touch the server this weekend. No matter what Noah tells you, do not log in. Kevin nodded, eyes wide. I walked to the elevator. As I pressed the button, I saw Noah standing at the end of the hallway, watching me. He had a smug look of triumph on his face. He raised his coffee cup in a mock toast. I didn't salute back. I just stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, cutting off his view, I looked at my watch. It was 4:15 p.m. In exactly 45 minutes, the system would run its automated end-of-week integrity check. It would look for the lead architect's digital signature. When it found my badge inactive and my account disabled, it wouldn't just assume I was fired. It would assume the company had been compromised. Noah had just pulled the pin on a grenade, and he was holding it right up to his ear, listening for a ticking sound. I didn't go straight home. My apartment was too quiet, and right now, my mind was too loud. Instead, I drove to the industrial district on the east side of the city, pulling up to a converted warehouse that looked abandoned to the untrained eye. To those who knew, however, it was the fortress of Samuel Ramirez. Samuel was a ghost in the machine. We had studied computer science together at MIT almost 15 years ago. While I went corporate, stabilizing systems for defense contractors, Samuel went freelance. He was a digital forensics consultant, a fancy title for a guy companies hired when they needed to know exactly who stole the money, or in some cases, how to prove they hadn't. I buzzed the intercom. It's Sophie, I've been erased. The heavy steel door buzzed open instantly. Samuel was waiting for me in his living room, which was really just a massive server rack with a leather couch pushed against it. He was wearing a faded hoodie and holding 2 bottles of craft beer. Erased? Samuel asked, handing me a bottle. That's a dramatic word for a Friday. I sat down, the adrenaline from the confrontation with Linda finally fading into a dull ache behind my eyes. I told him everything. The visionary, Noah Martin, the cloud migration scheme, the ignored warnings, and finally, the revocation of my clearance. When I mentioned the clearance revocation, Samuel didn't gasp. He started laughing. It was a deep, belly-shaking laugh that echoed off the high ceilings. Wait, he said, wiping a tear from his eye. Let me get the timeline straight. He fired the lead architect, you, at 4:00 p.m. on a Friday. Yes. And he revoked your level 5 credentials immediately. He took my badge and watched Linda disable my Active Directory account, I confirmed, taking a sip of the beer. It tasted like hops and vindication. Samuel shook his head, walking over to his wall of monitors. Does this MBA genius know about the heartbeat protocol you installed in the Vertex servers back in 2019? I tried to tell him, I said, shrugging. He interrupted me to talk about synergy. Samuel typed a few commands into his terminal. He wasn't hacking Vertex. He wouldn't risk his license, but he was pulling up public traffic data. Sophie, you know what's going to happen. The Vertex mainframe is programmed to ping your specific admin ID every 6 hours to verify chain of custody for the classified data. It's a dead man's switch if it doesn't get a handshake from your unique digital signature. It assumes the admin has been compromised or kidnapped, I finished for him. and it initiates a total lockout to protect the data from foreign actors. It's a suicide pact, Samuel mused, looking at the screen. Noah just drove the car off a cliff because he thought the steering wheel was costing too much money. He turned to me, his expression serious now. Here is my professional advice, Sophie. Do absolutely nothing. Do not log in from home to fix it. Do not answer your phone. Do not text Kevin. If you touch that system now, after your official termination time, you are committing a federal crime. You are unauthorized. Let it burn. It's going to destroy the company, I said softly. No, Samuel corrected. It's going to save the data. That's what you designed it to do. The company is just collateral damage. I went home and followed Samuel's advice to the letter. I turned off my phone. I poured myself a glass of wine. I sat on my balcony and watched the city lights flicker, wondering which one of them was the Vertex office building. At 10:00 p.m., the first scheduled heartbeat check would have occurred. In my mind, I could visualize the code executing. The central server, a massive black box sitting in a chilled room 3 miles away, would send a silent query. Is admin Sophie Brown active? The answer would come back, user disabled, ID revoked. The server would pause. It was programmed to be cautious. It wouldn't panic immediately. It would wait for a secondary authorization. It would ping the backup keys. But Noah, in his infinite wisdom and desire for streamlining, hadn't appointed a secondary admin with level 5 clearance. He had fired the only one. The server would try again. Query, secondary admin. Result, null. I took a sip of wine. By now, the system would be entering defensive posture. It wouldn't shut down operations yet. That would be too obvious. Instead, it would subtly restrict external traffic. The cloud migration Noah had authorized. The system would view that massive data transfer as a data exfiltration attack, coinciding with the removal of the admin. To the server's logic, it looked like a heist. Someone had taken out the guard, me, and was trying to loot the vault, the cloud transfer. I slept surprisingly well that night. When I woke up on Saturday morning, I turned my phone back on. It exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, 33 text messages. Most were from Kevin. The texts started calm and descended into madness. Friday, 10:15 p.m. Hey Sophie, getting some weird lag on the upload. Did you change a setting before you left? Friday, 11:30 p.m. Sophie, the cloud transfer is stuck at 0%. It keeps saying handshake failed. Noah is yelling at the contractors. Saturday, 2:00 a.m. We can't log in, none of us. My badge isn't working on the server room door. Saturday, 4:45 a.m. Noah brought in a locksmith to drill the server room lock. The moment they breached the door, the fire suppression system armed itself. We are standing in the parking lot. Please call me. I scrolled down to the voicemails. 3 were from Linda. 2 were from an unknown number, undoubtedly Noah. I listened to one from Noah, timestamped 3:12 a.m. Sophie, this is Noah. Look, there's a glitch. A legacy bug you left behind. I need you to hop on a call and give us the override code. It's holding up the migration. Call me back immediately. It's urgent. He didn't sound scared yet. He sounded annoyed, like I had hidden the remote control to the TV. He called it a bug. He still didn't understand that the system was working exactly as intended. I was in the middle of making pancakes when my landline rang. I hadn't given that number to Vertex, but Linda had access to my old employment files. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. Hello. Sophie, thank God. It was Linda. She sounded breathless, bordering on hysterical. Sophie, you need to come in right now. Linda, I asked, feigning confusion. I thought I was terminated. I signed the paperwork. I'm no longer an employee of Vertex Solutions. We know, she stammered. But the system, it's locked us out. Noah says you sabotaged it before you left. I did no such thing, I said, my voice hardening. I returned my equipment and left the building as instructed. If there is a technical issue, that falls under the responsibility of the current IT leadership, which I believe is Noah. He can't fix it, Linda cried. He's on the phone with the contractors, but they can't even get admin access to run a diagnostic. Sophie, please. He says he'll sue you for damages if you don't help. Sue me? I laughed. Linda, listen to me very carefully. You handed me a document yesterday. Paragraph 4, Section B. The employee agrees to cease all access to company systems immediately upon termination. If I log in, I am violating the NDA you made me sign. I would be breaking the contract. I can't help you. We can waive it, Linda shouted. Noah is right here. He says he waives it. There was a scuffling sound, and then Noah's voice came on the line. He wasn't using his smooth, corporate, visionary voice anymore. He sounded like a man who had been awake all night drinking stale coffee and fear. Brown, stop playing games, Noah snapped. Give me the root password now. There is no root password, Noah, I said calmly. It's a biometric key linked to a physical token, the token you confiscated, the token that is currently sitting on Linda's desk, inactive. Then tell me how to bypass it. I can't, I said. You revoked my clearance. I am a civilian. Discussing the architecture of a classified federal system with a civilian is a felony, Noah. Are you asking me to commit a felony? I am asking you to do your job, he roared. I don't have a job, I reminded him. You eliminated it, remember. Efficiency. Fine, Noah hissed. I'll hire you back as a consultant, standard rate, just come in and unlock it. I looked at the clock on my microwave, 10:00 a.m. on Saturday. The 24-hour cycle was approaching. I'm afraid I'm busy this weekend, I said politely. But if you're really stuck, you might want to check the server logs for Incident Report 77. It explains the protocol. Incident Report 77, what is that? It's the automated alert sent to the agency liaison when the system detects a hostile takeover, I said. Have a great weekend, Noah. I hung up the phone. I hadn't lied. I was busy. I had a date with my couch and a very long book. And Noah, he had about 2 hours before the system stopped just defending itself and started calling for backup. Sunday evening rolled around. I was sitting on my patio, enjoying the silence that comes with unemployment, when my phone buzzed with a forwarded email from Kevin. The subject line read, Global Update, Migration Suit. CSS and Leadership Restructuring. I raised an eyebrow. I opened the email, which had been sent to the entire company at 6:00 p.m. on a Sunday. Team, it began, I am pleased to announce that despite some legacy hurdles and resistance to change, the operations team has successfully initiated the cloud migration sequence. We have bypassed the outdated on-premise restrictions. This marks a new era of agility for Vertex. Furthermore, we will be restructuring the security department to align with modern standards. See you all Monday. Noah. He thought he had won. He thought that because the progress bar was moving, the data was actually transferring. I called Samuel immediately. He forced the transfer. He did what? Samuel asked, the sound of keyboard clacking in the background. How? The encryption keys are on your badge. He must have used a force mirror command, I speculated. He probably hired an external recovery team to bypass the handshake and just copy the raw bits. Samuel laughed, a low, dark sound. So he's copying encrypted gibberish? Without your key, those files are just digital static. He's filling his expensive new cloud storage with terabytes of noise. It's worse than that, I said, looking out at the city skyline. The system is programmed to detect a mass unauthenticated copy event if he copies more than 50% of the drive without the key. It triggers the containment protocol, Samuel finished. He thinks he's migrating the data. In reality, he's locking the doors and swallowing the key. Noah's arrogance was his blind spot. He saw a progress bar and assumed success. He didn't understand that I had designed the interface to be deceptive during a breach. It looked like it was working to keep the intruder occupied while the system silently alerted the authorities. "Let him have his victory lap," I said quietly. "Monday morning is going to be a bloodbath." I didn't go to the office on Monday, obviously. But thanks to Kevin, I had a play-by-play description of the catastrophe. At 8:00 a.m., the staff arrived at Vertex Solutions. They logged into their workstations expecting the new era of agility Noah had promised. Instead, every single monitor in the building, from the reception desk to the CEO's office, displayed a single, stark message against a black background. System lockdown initiated. Threat level, critical, unauthorized data exfiltration detected, all local control suspended. Contact DPT of Defense Oversight. Noah arrived at 8:15 a.m. holding a latte. According to Kevin, he marched into the main bullpen, saw the screens, and dropped his coffee. It splashed across the carpet, but no one moved to clean it up. The office was dead silent. "What is this?" Noah shouted, hammering a keyboard at the nearest desk. "Reboot it. Everyone reboot." "We can't," a sysadmin whispered. "The power buttons are unresponsive. It's a firmware lock. The BIOS has been overwritten." Noah ran to his office. His door wouldn't open. The electronic smart locks had sealed every executive office. "Get maintenance," Noah screamed, his face turning a blotchy red. "Drill the locks." That was when the phones started ringing. Not the internal lines, those were dead. The personal cell phones. First, the CFO's phone rang, then the legal counsel's. Noah pulled out his own mobile. He stared at the screen, and for the first time, I think he truly understood the scale of his mistake. He wasn't getting a call from tech support. He wasn't getting a call from the cloud vendor. He was being locked out of the building's digital infrastructure, because the building now considered him the threat. The agile workflow he had forced through on Sunday had been flagged as an act of corporate espionage. I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking tea, when I saw the news alert on my tablet. Defense contractor Vertex Solutions offline due to potential cyberattack. Federal investigators en route. "Oh, Noah," I whispered to the empty room. "You wanted to make headlines. Congratulations." By 10:00 a.m., the atmosphere inside Vertex had shifted from confusion to pure panic. The air conditioning had cut out, another automated defensive measure to preserve power for the core servers, and the glass-walled office was rapidly becoming a greenhouse. Kevin texted me from the bathroom, the only place he felt safe. "He's trying to physically pull the drives. He's in the server room with a screwdriver." I stared at the text, pulling the drives while they were in active defense mode. I replied, "Get out of there. Now fire alarm, pull it if you have to." If Noah yanked a drive while the encryption beat was active, the anti-tamper capacitors would discharge. It wouldn't explode, but it would fry the hardware instantly to prevent data recovery. It would destroy millions of dollars of equipment in a microsecond. Inside the server room, the scene was chaotic. Noah, sweating through his expensive suit, was screaming at the two contractors he had hired. "Just pull it out," Noah yelled, gesturing at the main rack. The LED lights on the servers were no longer blinking a friendly green. They were pulsing a slow, rhythmic red, the heartbeat I had coded. "We can't, sir," one contractor yelled back over the roar of the emergency fans. "The chassis is magnetized. It's the tamper lock." "I don't care." Noah grabbed a pry bar from a toolbox on the floor. "I am the vice president of operations, and I am ordering you to." Clack. The sound was louder than the fans. It was the sound of the heavy magnetic locks on the server room doors engaging. Noah froze. He ran to the door and pushed. It didn't budge. He pounded on the reinforced glass. Outside, the employees watched in horror. Their boss was trapped in the fishbowl, surrounded by flashing red lights and the deafening roar of cooling fans running at 100%. The system had identified the location of the intrusion, the server room, and had isolated the threat, Noah. My phone rang. It wasn't Linda this time. It wasn't Noah. The caller ID, displayed a Washington, D.C. area code. "This is Sophie Brown," I answered, my voice steady. "Ms. Brown," a deep, familiar voice rumbled on the line. "This is Director Robinson. We seem to have a situation at your facility. The automated alert says the encryption architect has been purged." "That is correct, Director," I said. "And now my data is locked behind a fortress that thinks it's being robbed," Robinson said. He didn't sound angry at me. He sounded like a man who was about to end someone's career. "I am 10 minutes away. I suggest you meet me there." "I can't, sir," I said. "My clearance has been revoked. I'm not allowed on the premises." "Ms. Brown," Robinson said, and I could practically hear him smiling grimly. "I am the agency. I am the clearance. Get down here. I want a front row seat when you open that door." I arrived at the Vertex parking lot 20 minutes later. The scene was cinematic in the worst possible way. 3 black government SUVs were parked diagonally across the entrance, blocking anyone from leaving. 2 uniformed officers stood by the revolving doors. I walked up to the perimeter. My badge was in a box at home, but I didn't need it. "Ms. Brown," a man in a sharp charcoal suit stepped out of the lead SUV. It was Director Robinson. He was a man in his 60s with steel-gray hair and a presence that made the air feel heavier. He didn't shake my hand, he just nodded. Right on time. "Director," I said, "I see the defensive posture is working as intended." "Ideally," Robinson said dryly, adjusting his cuffs, "it works without trapping the vice president of operations inside a magnetized glass box like a hamster. But I suppose the system has a sense of humor." We walked into the lobby together. The receptionist looked like she was about to faint. The lobby was filled with whispering employees, but as soon as Robinson entered, the silence was absolute. He walked straight through the crowd, parting the sea of office workers, with me a step behind him. We reached the server room observation deck. It was a spectacle. Through the reinforced glass, we could see Noah. He had stopped banging on the door. He was sitting on the floor, his suit jacket discarded, his tie loosened, drenched in sweat. The server room was designed to be cool for machines, but with the AC diverted to the racks and the emergency fans roaring, the ambient heat in the trapped airlock was rising. The red emergency lights pulsed rhythmically, casting him in a villainous glow. Linda ran up to us, her heels clicking frantically. "Oh, thank goodness. Director Robinson, please, you have to open the door. He's been in there for an hour. We can't override the maglocks." Robinson looked at Linda, then at the trapped Noah, then at me. "I can't open it," Robinson said calmly. "I am the client, not the admin. The system has identified a threat. It will not release the lock until a Level 5 authorized administrator clears the alert." He turned to me. "Ms. Brown, are you currently employed by Vertex Solutions?" "No, sir," I said loudly enough for the silent crowd to hear. "I was terminated on Friday for redundancy and inefficiency." Robinson hummed. "Well, that presents a problem. I cannot allow a civilian to access the terminal. However, I can authorize an emergency reinstatement. Effective immediately, you are the acting chief information officer for this site. Do you accept?" I looked at Noah through the glass. He was looking back at me, his eyes pleading. The arrogance was gone. He was just a man who had realized he was smaller than the machine he tried to break. "I accept," I said. I walked to the emergency console on the wall next to the server room door. It was a manual override panel, but it required a biometric scan and a specific rhythmic code entry that only I knew. I placed my hand on the scanner. The red light washed over my palm. "Beep, identity confirmed, Architect Brown." I typed in the sequence. The roaring fans spun down. The red pulsing light stabilized to a solid amber. Clack. The heavy magnetic bolts on the server room door retracted. The door hissed open. Noah stumbled out, gasping for air. He looked like a shipwreck survivor. He braced his hands on his knees, coughing. You crazy," he wheezed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You sabotaged it. You set a trap." "Mr. Martin, Director Robinson's voice cut through the air like a whip. Noah stood up straight, trying to regain some composure. Director, good you're here. This ex-employee planted malicious code. She locked down the facility. I want her arrested for corporate sabotage. Robinson didn't blink. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Mr. Martin, this is a printout of the automated incident log sent to my office. Do you know what the system flagged this event as? Noah stared at him, mute. It flagged it as an internal hostile takeover attempt, Robinson read. It triggered because you attempted to mass export classified data to an unsecured cloud server while simultaneously deleting the encryption architect. In the eyes of the federal government, that isn't efficiency. That is espionage. I was just modernizing the workflow, Noah stammered. You were violating the Federal Compliance Act, Robinson corrected. And by revoking Ms. Brown's clearance, you removed the only person who could have stopped the automated report from being filed. You didn't just lock the door, son. You called the police on yourself. Robinson signaled to the two uniformed officers by the entrance. They stepped forward. Noah Martin, Robinson said, his voice devoid of pity. Your clearance is permanently revoked pending a federal investigation into mishandling of classified data. You are to be escorted off the premises immediately. Do not collect your personal effects. Those are now evidence. The officers flanked Noah. He looked at me one last time. There was no hate in his eyes anymore, only shock. He still couldn't understand how his perfect spreadsheet had translated into this reality. Sophie, he whispered as they led him away. I didn't say anything. I just turned back to the console and typed the command to restore normal operations. The lights in the office turned back to a standard, boring white. The AC hummed to life. Checkmate, I whispered. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my garden. It was a Tuesday morning, but I wasn't at work. I was drinking coffee and watching a hummingbird hover over my hydrangeas. I didn't stay at Vertex. Director Robinson had offered me the CIO position permanently, with a massive raise. It was tempting. But as I walked through that office on Monday, watching the same people who had avoided my gaze on Friday now rushing to congratulate me, I realized something. I had outgrown the room. I accepted a consultancy role directly with the agency. I now worked remotely, auditing other companies' security protocols to make sure no other Noahs could put national secrets at risk for the sake of a quarterly bonus. I set my own hours. I commanded triple my old salary. And best of all, no one revoked my clearance. The investigation into Noah uncovered something else. The reason he was so desperate to move the data to the cloud wasn't just efficiency. The visionary had a kickback deal with the cloud storage vendor. He was set to receive a 5% commission on the storage fees that would have cost the company millions over 10 years. By revoking my clearance, he hadn't just tripped a security alarm. He had inadvertently preserved the forensic evidence of his own embezzlement scheme on the local servers, preventing him from wiping the drive. He literally locked the evidence inside the box and handed the key to the FBI. I spent 7 years building a safety net for a company that tried to cut me loose the moment they thought I was expensive. I made the classic mistake. I thought my loyalty would be returned. Here is what I learned, and what you need to take away from this. First, technical debt is real, and so is karma. If you are the person who holds the keys, never let someone convince you that you are just a gatekeeper. You are the guardian. When they try to break down the gate, step aside and let them see what the dragon looks like. Second, document your value. Noah failed because he didn't know what I actually did. Make sure your contributions are visible, logged, and undeniable. And finally, don't save them from themselves. When I was fired, my instinct was to fix it. Samuel told me to stop. That was the hardest and best advice. Sometimes, you have to let the fire burn so they can see who was holding the hose. Protect your work, know your worth, and never, ever give up your admin access without a fight. If this story of corporate justice touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one.